Here we go. Thanks for hopping on, Scott. Here is the issue at hand. I'm gonna share my screen here. Uh, so, in the efforts of being a good software developer citizen, was working on refactoring this bit in the IDE. Am I even in the right thing? Oh, let me just copy this. Was working on refactoring this bit in the IDE that changes how we view this editor info, like what line you're at and other things. And was doing some significant refactoring to the point where I'd really like some sort of safety. So why not just add a whole bunch of feature specs to just, keep things safe? Ended up adding, 5 feature specs. And it takes 800 seconds to run these 5 feature specs. So not great. Previously, for a long time, we had in our testing pyramid unit tests, feature specs, and that was kind of it. But now we have introduced this middle layer front-end integration specs. So the idea here is we have taken our whole front end chunk, just the things in JavaScript, so not even the YAML, just the things in JavaScript. So we want to test that chunk. So we mock out the back end and we use fixtures for API responses, not for HTML and things like that. We use fixtures for API responses. We mock out the back end and we run the entry point of our thing we're trying to test. And so we're going to try to rewrite some of these tests in the feature spec world. What do you think?
That's good.
Okay. So we're actually going to not work off master because this is about to be merged. This MR that Himanshu is working on, which I think changes a little bit of this for the web IDE specifically.
Okay.
So I'm just going to work on top of that. So let me check that out. Boom. Okay. Oh yeah, I was doing something silly. So let me just reset with this branch. Okay, and it's taking a while. All right, here we go. Okay. And then let me check out a new branch for this issue. Move feature specs to FE integration specs. Brilliant. All right, so let's check it out. The front end integration folder. Have you seen the folder at all before?
I haven't exported though.
Okay. So definitely want your feedback on what you think is helpful or not. So we have another folder for test helpers, which includes the mock server and something fancy snapshot serializing stuff. This for a long time was our only integration spec. And just reading it, you could see that this is at a different level than our unit tests. Like this isn't actually creating the component. This is mounting this thing. And then we create the file. And this is a helper that encapsulates those use cases or like those user interactions. So this is doing all that it takes to create the file based on the parameters we send it. Like we're looking for this element, we're going to type this into the modal, like all of that.
Cool.
So the goal is we're just like trying to write these tests as if we weren't developers, almost like writing it like, here's the requirements, user creates a file with this, user deletes this file, we do commit, and then we can reference our mock server. And our mock server, this is a really, really cool library we're using for this mock server. It is called Mirage. And it lets us express an API similar to Express, but it also keeps track of this like internal database. And that's what we're kicking off with all of our fixtures. is this all of these are fixtures API responses that we get. Sorry. So for this mock server, we initialize this sort of database that all of our mock endpoints are just going to read from and respond with. And these database comes from test helpers fixtures. And these are snapshots of API responses from the real backend. Does that kind of make sense?
It does.
Okay. So like, for example, and then we register all of our routes here. And so like if I go to my repository to find a file, we're just going to try to keep this as small as possible, because this is the downside to this, is that we're having to mock out the backend, which isn't great. And especially for the IDE, which makes like 15 requests, we don't want to just mock each one of those requests. So we're trying to just replace the backend with something that is very, very light. But there's still a little bit of duplication there that isn't great. But that's about it. And I'm so stoked to show you one of the coolest things about this, though. And I've been talking about it for a while, but let's see if I could show you one of the coolest things about it. So I'm gonna restart the GDK here. And I am actually going to create a file called temp, and bear with me. This is how I've been working with this. I'm going to create a file called temp, and it's going to export a default function. And it's going to import from test helpers mock server use. Check this out. What I can do, because I'm mocking out the backend, I can go to my IDE page and I can import my test case, and I can actually see it run. If that kind of makes sense. So let me.
In the browser?
Oh yeah, that's what's so cool about this.
Whoa.
That's what Mirage like really sells you on, is like, with this fake backend, I can be working as if I had a real backend and testing things out visually, and then just replace it. So you could do kind of the same thing for tests, which is really neat. Let me see if I can. I forgot the config for. Oh yeah, I can go to test helpers here. So I can go to import. Run test from, so test helpers will go to that test helper directory. I think I want to go to IDE temp. I think it's something like that. Yeah, it's complaining about ESLint stuff, but that's not important. So after I run all this, then I'm gonna run my test. So I'm changing the actual production code, which is kind of weird, but I don't know a better way to do this. But now I can say, hey, running the test. We'll see it when it's ready to go. I'll open up the route that this is expecting, and you'll see Mirage kick in.
Awesome.
And it's really helpful it's really helpful when you're like building the actions. So that's one way that we've kind of decided to design this, is creating these helpers that let me write really simple use cases like create file. And so this is really helpful, helping me build these actions out. And then once I have the actions I need, then I'll kind of switch over and just start writing the test and the front end integration thing. Do you have any feelings right now, or are you just along for the ride?
No, I'm just kind of like, I'm trying to digest. This is a lot. I am curious, like, we're putting, so the front end integrations tests are like in this middle portion of the testing pyramid, like you were saying earlier. So for the sake of non-duplication of coverage, how do you see, like, okay, so let's say we replace the file that we're trying to replace in our spec, right? Our front end integration specs. Then how would you think about, like, what integration spec would you want? Because we're covering quite a few cases here. We're just mocking the back end. So then you could make the argument like that's a bit superfluous to do the same thing
Yeah.
just in RSpec, you know?
Yeah, you bring up a really, really good point. So where front-end integration specs are really valuable is when we're really just testing front-end interactions and behavior. And for the IDE, that's like 95% of it. None of these are doing any commits. It's just clicking buttons. Did the front
Got
end
it.
do this update? And none of it is really hitting. A lot of these aren't really hitting the back end other than getting file content, which Hamachi actually implemented, which is why I wanted to work off this branch.
Cool.
So there's not going to be any loss of coverage by moving this over to front end integration because this is only targeting front end stuff as far as coverage goes. But on a side note of that, one rule of thumb that I've been following, I really like following Martin Fowler's stuff. And he says for test duplication in the pyramid, you want to try to push tests as far down the pyramid as possible. So something is wrong if my unit tests are all green and I have a higher level tests red. That's telling me I didn't capture something at the unit level that I really could have. It's not to say that you need to have just unit tests, but it is saying you want to try to push them as far down as you can because clearly running things at end to end is very expensive.
Right.
And it's not just line coverage, but it's value coverage that we're also really interested in. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
So let me see if oh yeah, this is it, I think. Okay. So this is not, oh, beautiful. Yeah. So, oh no, never mind. Oh, it's not, okay. All right. Here's the downside to all of this. Here's something that we got to fix. But because test fixtures are actually loaded in a module right now, maybe I can fix this right now. But because test fixtures are actually loaded in a module, you have to have all the fixtures for any of them to run because we set up the whole database. You know what I'm saying? So let me. So that's what I'm running into right now is Hamachi added some fixtures. I haven't ran them locally. So now I can't run anything and it's all going to blow up, which is not great. So what would be ideal is that we do some sort of default if the fixture isn't, if you can't find the fixture, we do some sort of default so you can still move forward if I'm not using that slice. Do you want to see if that's possible?
Sure.
Okay, let's try it out. So what is this? This is throwing a fit by saying cannot find module test fixtures. Oh, because it's trying to resolve it by requiring this thing. And then we're reading the file of the sync. And these are all doing, are these all promises? Let's see. Because I was kind of thinking, what if we just, for every one of these, these are not promises. These are actual things. I was kind of thinking how we could just.
That's a bit weird though, because it requires async.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so then it could just not be available at that point. Which
So one thing I could do is I could wrap these in tries.
Try.
I guess if we want to. Or probably the fastest thing would just be to run the fixture. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm looking for, so this alias is a jest alias that, and it's also Webpack alias, I think, that looks at, here we go. Here's the one I need to run. Spec. Let's look up test fixtures real fast while we're here. Yeah, so this is a jest alias that's looking actually at your temp directory for what fixtures you have, and it's going to try to resolve those modules. So we can just do require rather than having to do reading of files and things. which causes issues. And the reason this is important is I can't run this if I'm doing, and I see we're actually doing that here where we do read file sync. Ideally, we could just require it as a text. But I see that might not be possible. So here's how I'm going to do this. Yeah, because, all right, one of the goals of this environment is being able to run it and see it like this. So I'm going to do something really crazy, go nuts. And please stop me. Please stop me. We're going to do this. We're going to create a function called with default. Here's the function. Here's the default value. And we are I don't need to get the actual exception. Do I need to have parentheses here? And if I make this async, can I just like await this like this? Can I do that? Even if it's not async? I think I should be able to do that.
What do you mean if it's not async?
Like if this isn't a promise, await doesn't do anything then, right? Await.
Yeah, I think it just executes.
Okay.
We'll find out.
Yeah, so we're going to return awaiting of that thing, and then we're otherwise we'll return the default value. Do you think with default, do you think that's a cool function name?
Always.
Okay.
This is crazy go nuts. So.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
I mean, you can just name it bananas and we'd be good.
Bananas. Okay, that's the default. Default content bananas. Oh gosh, I'm stuck. Default content with default content. Yeah, so it's clearly not very obvious that read file sync is kind of what we do want to try to avoid that, because technically we could run these in the Webpack environment. We want to try to preserve that, but clearly it's not obvious here because we do run them in Jest. So I'm gonna have to think about how we want to preserve that. What do you think?
Well, we can't start moving we need this aspect. So okay. Let's take a step back. So Himanshu's MR introduced new fixtures. Those new fixtures are causing problems. Those problems need to be solved by doing what we're doing now. So we're a little bit removed from the integration spec, right? But we need this to run the integration spec to check. So that's working, correct?
Yeah, so we could just run Jest integration through the console and do it, but I'm a very visual person, so I like seeing it.
That's cool. I just wanted to make sure I understood where we were at.
So this isn't necessary at all. This is just necessary for me to be able to do this thing.
Perfect.
But I'm curious. I'm now running into more issues. Oh man, what's wrong with you, Paul? What are these? Oh, these are functions. With default. Oh, yes, I'm not returning a function. Oh, and everything's failing. Abort. Okay. Let's try.
That's off to a good start.
I know. Let's try to put a pause here. These are functions. So I want to return a function like this, I guess.
Wait, what do you mean? With default?
these are functions. So I want to do this, I think.
Okay.
Gosh, and I wish I could like figure out.
Well, but with default isn't being called twice. It's being called once. So then it would be, you would want to, it would just be with default equals fn default value, and then try, well, so then we wouldn't even be doing the try catch anymore. We would just return fn, right? Because I don't think you want to return the invocation of the function that's being
well, we want
passed
to,
to you.
if the invocation fails, then we want to just return the default value. So I think we do need to call it here.
Okay, but then I'm a little lost with the function curry. Or I guess
You are correct. It is
the high order
confusing. So yeah, these are.
Oh, those, okay. Get blob readme is being called somewhere. So then that, okay.
I made it really confusing. I realized I did something.
It's all good. I got it now. Took me a minute.
How about this? We're just having fun. How about this? What if it looked like this? Let me know what you think. If I did with default content, and then I passed in whatever function, like if I did it like that, and then what do you think of that API if it looked like this? That's weird. That looks weirder. Okay, thank you for stopping me.
I was actually going to encourage you, but.
Oh, do you think it's cool?
I mean, I think it's.
No, what
if
I'm
we
doing
were,
anymore.
it's all good. It's all good.
Okay.
We can just keep moving.
I've completely lost my mind now. So let's please keep moving.
Okay.
Please stop me, Scott, before it gets really bad. Okay, boom. Do you see we're running this test?
How fancy.
And look at Mirage console logged all of these endpoints that we hit.
Cool.
So this was not hitting the real backend.
Cool.
Webpack, these are hitting the fake backend, which is very exciting. And so if I open up README, I should get bananas. Yes. That's exciting.
I'm gonna clip that excitement.
So
that's gonna be my new GIF.
But do you feel it? Like this is so.
Yeah, it's very cool.
This is very exciting. So
it's so exciting.
So what I can do now in my test here, I know what I really want to assert is this stuff. So let me go back to here. And I want to open the file. I need to be able to get the status bar, and I want to be able to set the position. So I can start writing all of this out. So I'm going to import. Let me check where I am in the file tree. I want to import from specifically just my IDE helper. So we're running the test, and I want to. Oh yeah, this is probably going to be I want to wait. IDE helper open file readme.md. So now to just double check it, I'm going to refresh my page and see where am I at now. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you should refresh you shouldn't be at README, right? You should be at root.
You are 100% correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Rails. So downside to all this, I don't really need the Rails backend, but Rails is, I mean, it's still kind of all tied to that because we're hitting some sort of server that's returning us these assets. I don't need that. I don't know what a good fix for that kind of thing is, but that's a little bit. That's the only thing really contributing to the slowness, I think. Can't find it. What's wrong with you?
No, test constants. It said which might be an IDE helper. Right?
Find test constants.
Yeah. That's a bit weird. Helpers test constants.
Oh, this is a dependency cycle that's shown up here because we're initting the IDE. Okay, yes. I'm going to comment this out for right now, and we will fix this later. But that's probably why I think it wasn't showing up, because The IDE was importing this test helper so I can run things and see it visually. But then in my helper, I was importing the IDE mounting thing. And we don't want to do that.
You're going to get a runtime error, right? Because you're referencing something that isn't being imported at the bottom.
You actually, scarily, that's the run. So that is the runtime error, I think, is that it couldn't find this thing.
But right, really? Like because we commented it in the IDE, that's not going to throw an error at the bottom. It's like, hey, you can't reference.
Oh, and I see too, it's trying to find this thing, and that's Webpack doesn't know about this thing either.
Okay.
So we'll move some of these stuff up, but clearly there's some flakiness to this environment.
Really? What?
Well, I know, yeah. So aren't you so excited to start using it?
Yeah, actually, anything
boom,
to not
we're
write
running
our
it.
specs.
And boom, we opened up readme.md.
Perfect.
Very exciting.
Bananas.
So
exciting.
So now we want to see, can I set the editor position? Do I have a helper for doing that? And that's going to be important because we want to double check that this thing can get set. So let me see how I did that in my RSpec helper. If I go to IDE set editor position. Okay. Oh, flip-flops. I remember this. Okay, yeah, this was a little wild. Are you ready to go? You thought we were down the rabbit hole, but oh man, Scott. So to set the editor position, we need to interface with Monaco, and because there's not like just easy user interaction for me, just like, hey, click on this position. So probably the best thing to do is just call some sort of function to Monaco to do this. Okay, all of that's great.
But that's not possible.
But Monaco doesn't expose this test editor thing. Where in the world is that coming from? Good question, Scott. So those are like completely out of scope and in a hidden scope. And the only way to expose it to some sort of scope is to create some sort of callback that lets us get like the last editor created. Not great. But this is, so the way that we did it here was to save this Monaco editor reference and to always be watching for that and then use it. And we can do that. So we can create it in our IDE helper here. We can create something that starts saving off a Monaco editor reference and start using it. We could do it maybe in a less of a globally way because we are in JavaScript, where here we were in RSpec, so we had to write to a global file. Maybe over here we could just expose a helper for like on editor created, and I pass a callback and I can just save it to a local scope. Do you think that would be cool?
Yeah.
I am digging your enthusiasm. I was not being sarcastic. Maybe I was being a little sarcastic. So this,
you have all the, I mean, I'm along for the ride. You have all the context.
Please help me. I clearly need help. Like I'm this.
Do you want me to just tell you stop?
Please tell me to stop. Please tell me, like, Paul, you stopped making sense. Please do not.
Let's just delete the RSpec file and call it a day. Scott's
like, you don't run into failing or slow tests if you have no tests.
If you don't have the test, exactly.
Bring up a good point. On Monaco editor created. This is the magic. Window Monaco on Monaco did create editor. This is the magic. We're just going to call callback. And so over here in my temp world, I could do something really wild, like current Monaco editor. And then do IDE helper on Monaco did create editor. No, all the functional people are gonna hate me right now. So what do you think of that thing?
Yeah.
You think it's cool?
We go back. Okay, that's null, and I'm gonna go do create. Okay. Yes.
So then what we're gonna do over here, we do a ID set editor position.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll add a new helper thing here for set Monaco editor position, and I'll do something crazy where I take the editor actually, and something like that. Do you think? Stop me if you don't like it. I want you to like it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I don't think we need to pass the. Depends how we use this, but I mean, I was thinking like you could just access the reference of the editor, but we'll see how this goes. This feels good though.
Okay. I probably don't need to expand this. I was kind of doing it for like code intelligence's sake, expanding it like this, so I could see it like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might be able to do like comments and stuff, but this is also compile time happy. So then I was going to do set Monaco editor position. It takes, oh, and this is part of my ID helper thing. It takes the current Monaco editor. Oh, I have a great idea. Oh man, this may not be a great idea, but
I'm stopping you.
No, okay.
No. Tell me. Tell me.
Okay, I'll tell you. Let me see if I could do this though, where we're going to the fourth position. Let's see if this works, and then I have an interesting idea to refactor it, which I think you'll actually like, and you'll be like, "Ooh." We'll see.
Can you go back to the code? Can you go back to on Monaco did create editor?
Mm-hmm.
The definition. On Monaco did create editor. So I'm a little confused because we're passing a function that's just saying like assign I don't know the API for on did create editor. Does it give you an argument that is like in a reference?
Yep.
Okay,
so
then
here's the editor.
Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, never mind.
I think what you're feeling will be solved with this idea that I had. Can I entertain me for a second?
Yeah.
So what if we had a cool function called create Monaco editor interface? That may be weird. We could think of a better word than that. But what this is going to do is encapsulate that hidden state. So it's going to do this thing. Let current editor equals null. Current editor equals editor. Yeah. Okay, so that's all cool. But then it's going to have functions like set position, line,
and then it's going to reference current editor. Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to say earlier. Good. Thank you for entertaining this idea. This is great.
This is sometimes I have to do it messy first, and then
it's the best way.
Ooh, I'm excited to see what happens. IDE helper, create Monaco editor interface. Boom. We don't need you. And this is significantly looking set position. What do you think?
Beautiful.
Okay, cool. So let me refresh this. Let's see if it works.
Would you set the line number to 2?
I said like column 4.
Okay.
So I'm going to make my default bananas have more to it. Oh, what's going on, bananas? Oh,
Current editor is null.
I don't think I waited long enough. That's disappointing.
Wait. No. It says current editor is null. So let's
And
go
I'm
back.
calling set position. So I never got my let's add some console logs so we can be aware of the timing that's happening here. So console log ID helper. I should call this adapter. Man. Anyways. On did create editor callback. You know, this would be a really cool thing that for us to do more is rather than writing these logs, removing them, and all that stuff. Like, what if we just kept logs, but had it in a way that they didn't show up in production? Like, that would be really nice. I feel like
that would be nice.
Anyways. Do this again. I'm pretty sure I need to wait for something, and that's why this is.
But you had access to it before.
You
had access to.
But I was in RSpec world, and RSpec does a lot of waiting.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So let me see what happened. What I was really waiting, like, yeah, I was waiting for a lot. I think, which is not the case here, and I think I have something I could wait for. I just need to. Oh gosh.
Yeah, so it's calling set position and current editor is available. Okay.
So here we go. We have on did create editor is getting called after I've called set position. I have more crazy ideas.
You gonna throw some set time out?
Oh, that's insane ideas.
I mean, it would validate something.
So
should we keep it in there? No, but
clearly current editor is something that's kind of deferred. Okay. So what if this is a what if the set position stuff that's going to have to be deferred? You know, we're having to wait for the editor. So clearly this is going to have to be asynchronous-ish. So, but what are we going to wait for?
Is that current editor is available?
And what's going to happen if, now I'm kind of curious, what's going to happen if we start, maybe I need to just throw wait for promises here. What do you think of that?
Well, yeah.
Because I just want to make sure I have the most recent current editor. Because what I'm seeing happen in the future, what I was thinking is like, okay, what if this was a promise, and I waited for the current editor and then set its position. But I know I'm going to end up having more of these, you know. So I really just need what's the most recent one, but like it's got to be ready. So I have an idea. Maybe to just make this more explicit. There might be ways to make this better. But what if we had a function rather than making set position async? What if we had a function for called wait for editor, which was async? And Yeah. And I can actually just add another one of these. That should work, right? And this doesn't have to be async, but I'm going to return a promise from it. What do you think of this?
Yeah.
This might be the easiest way right now. Then it does bring the question, like, why am I keeping track of this state thing? But it might end up being nice. I don't know. Let's try it out. Await editor, wait for editor, and then I can just set its position. What do you think? Okay, let's try it out. Oh, I'm still in readme. Oops. Boom, boom. 1-4. Woohoo! So that should kind of work, kind of. So we should be able to write a whole test case for that, which is exciting. So that's one. That's all the actions. And so the reason I use this visual thing, just to reiterate, I don't do expectations here because that's not going to be exposed in Webpack world. That's just a just thing. But I use it to make sure, are my actions, do they do what I think they are going to do? You know what I mean? So for this case, I've done all my actions. I've opened the file and I set the editor position. Let me see if I can do the rename file now, because that's another action that's over here. So I'm just working on this temp file, just double checking I could do these actions. Then I can just write my tests. Does that seem helpful or does it seem crazy to you?
Very helpful.
Helper. I don't have rename file. See, this is why we do it. I have delete file. No, I don't have rename file. All right, here we go. It's lunchtime over here. I've got some delicious, my wife just lovingly made some delicious looking soup and sandwiches.
Whoa.
I know.
I haven't had breakfast yet. I'm hungry.
Do you know you haven't had breakfast yet?
No.
Man, do you know Whole30? Have you ever done it?
No.
Oh wait, I've done it once, and my wife has done it a couple of times. She just finished the Whole30.
Oh, nice.
And so she's done it. She kind of already knows what she's sensitive to. She kind of just does it to just reset herself. But something tells me she's eager about making all these delicious sandwiches now that she's done. I'm joking.
Man. No, it's true though. You're just like, what have I not gotten to eat for 30 days?
She's really disciplined, so it's not like she goes overboard. But I know if I was in her shoes, I'm the kind of person that's like, okay, I've been eating good. I guess that means it's pizza and ice cream day. Like,
100%.
All right, we're here. We need to rename a file.
So like renaming. So then you have like you have the mock server has like a post or something that you're just gonna be like, I'm gonna pass the new name to the thing, and then it's gonna return that name, right? It's like
yeah, so we could do that. But just keep in mind too, there's a lot of context here with the IDE. There's like no calls to the backend when I rename a file. The only call to the backend that happens is when I finally do my commit. But there's so much front end stuff, so that these front end integrations tests are so valuable. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, interesting. So like when you do the web ID, when you rename a file, it's
when you
not
rename,
actually...
it's nothing happens. Like I renamed it locally.
Oh, and then you and then
Yeah.
you commit, and then it's like, okay, got it.
Not sure why it's freaking out, but
it's okay. We'll look the other way right now.
Yeah, please do. Hopefully it's not a real bug, and it could be, and that would be unfortunate. Yeah, it could be a real bug. Let's see. Let's see. We're coming close to time, but I think this is helpful probably as it was. But we want to rename a file. We're going to have a path and a new path. We can follow a little bit along to how we were deleting a file, which meant we were clicking a certain file row action after traversing to it. So I think we can kind of just do the same thing. So I can do, let me put this close to delete file since it's very similar. This glorious helper file is not getting very organized, but I don't know what to do.
Be organized later.
Yeah, classes are not the answer. That I do know.
Oh, you got your functional fans back.
I got my what?
Your
I know.
functional fans back.
Right. So I think you can hit rename move. Let's see if this works. So like you see how, what if click file row action actually doing? How does delete work like that? Don't you? I thought you had to like. I thought it warned you. Anyways, yeah, I'm surprised delete works. But anyways, let's try it out. Let's see if it actually clicks it. Rename file, readme. So this is the next. This is for this test. After you do a rename, this is the behavior that it does for the editor. So we're just preserving that. Readmes. Okay, and let's redo this. I'm really concerned about the console error that showed up though. That made me nervous.
You want me to go check it out locally?
I mean, you can see if .com has an error when you open up a file and rename it.
That's what I was just thinking.
Boom! Look at that. It opened up the modal.
Ooh.
That's exciting.
Ooh.
So I think then it's very much the same as our create file modal. We're find and set file name. Yeah, it's very much the same as this thing. Find by test ID, file name field. Is that yeah. Okay. Yeah, so here's the value. So maybe instead of find and set file name, maybe we should call this, what do you think of calling it fill file name modal? Or maybe submit file name modal. We get a value, but we have...
There should probably be a fill.
You think a fill is good?
And a submit, right? Because then like we're going to have to, if for future stuff in the IDE, we're going to have to fill other fields. We're going to have to submit other things. And then you could just pass like a reference to the button or whatever. Or like, hey, I want you to update this thing. That might be clear.
Oh, you're thinking of having two of them? Maybe.
Yeah, do one and see what happens.
I'll call it fill. I'll call it fill for right now. Create file. Because what the only thing different between our old create modal is this submit text, and I'm going to get rid of this thing. And now I'm getting some errors because this is now called fill file name modal. I think that's the only place I was used. Cool, but now I can use it over in rename file. Fill file name modal with the new path. And it is called, the submit text is called rename file. Probably makes sense being not just one function, I agree. I think you make a good point there. Let's see what happens here.
So I just check the web ID. It lets you delete the file, doesn't throw an error, but it doesn't warn you. It just lets you delete the file.
Oh, really? I thought it would warn, but I guess
I thought it would too. Oh.
We're doing stuff. Something
Nice.
must not have gotten submitted. Found multiple elements with the text rename file. That's the thing with this testing library. You know, this testing library thing. I'm clearly talking about this one. Come on, testing library. What's your beef? Maybe I can. Oh gosh, I don't know. So it's to clarify. It's throwing an error, not letting me submit that because testing library, you have to uniquely identify an element, which is good. Like that's, I accept it. And I
Well,
am.
so for our spec, we have what is it? Data QA selector.
Well, we'll use, so the QA selector should only be used for QA tests, but we'll use like, and I could use a test ID here, but it's kind of nice looking at the by the text name, but I could use a test ID. I was kind of thinking of passing this thing, this IDE new entry, like looking for that and passing that as like the container for these different calls.
And then just looking inside of there.
Yes, because right now I'm looking at the entire screen, which isn't great. So, so let me see if I can do that. Let me see if I can do something like modal equals, and it's the IDE, something like that. And obviously wanting to clean this up later. But here we are going to find by test ID. So I can only do screen stuff if I'm looking at the entire screen, but otherwise, I guess I need to do find by test ID, and then get by text, and that allows me to pass in a parent, find by test ID. Yeah, so I can do from the modal, here we go, and then get by text from the modal, here we go. Let's try that out. And then I know that it's time, but I think we might have created all our actions. So then I just like writing regular Jest specs, I just start running it and composing the actions and with assertions.
You do assertions on the DOM?
Yeah. So we'll use, and I can show what some of those look like. And I think, oh gosh, did it not work again? What's wrong with you? Expect a container to be an element. God, no. What? Oh, it's probably because it's like all this stuff is like so asynchronous.
Wait. Query selector should be live, right? There's like,
yeah. So this is gonna, and what I think is happening is the modal hasn't opened yet. So we're looking for this, but it's not there yet. Before it would work because find on testing library actually waits, like it'll do this polling thing. This is probably my own fault for not quite using the library. But if I make this with a test ID, I could then use await find by test ID IDE new entry or something.
See if that works.
And then that'll work. So let's try that out, and then we can evaluate whether this was successful or not. What are your feelings about this? What are some things you think could be better, or some low-hanging fruit?
I thought it was great. I think it's really awesome. I'm like I said, I'm along for the ride.
Okay.
I don't have much feedback right now. It would be, I mean, I'd like to use it more.
Yeah. My gosh, what's wrong with this thing? I'm expect a container to be an element. Am I not doing this right?
Console log modal. Let's see what modal is.
Oh, this has to be screened because I'm looking for the whole screen. Otherwise, I have to pass in a container. And it wasn't doing this because it was blowing up here because the first argument has to be a container unless I say screen. I wish it was flipped. Like I wish it just let me pass in the container as the second argument so that. But anyways, I'm now getting picky. Asking for too much, Scott. Oh gosh, come on. Boom, open the README. So this is why I like doing this thing visually, because doing this in the console I find really difficult. It's still finding multiple. Oh my gosh, are you serious? It's finding multiple elements with the text button because the header is also called rename file.
Oh.
Come on. I'm not gonna let it get to me. So I can actually do this, I think. You can get by text, modal, submit text, and then you can say that it has to match. Have you used the testing library a lot?
Which one?
You can say that it has to match a button, like. It's super fancy. Here we go. This is it. Boom.
Ooh. We got an error, but it looked like it renamed the file.
It did. Oh, you're right. Oh, this is the very scary error.
Yeah, but I didn't see that in production, so.
Wow, why is it so scary? What's happening there? Set timeout on set value. These are all Webpack internal stuff. Oh, here we go. All right, so some sort of thing happened. The ID helper, fill file name. I'm gonna have to dive into it. Hopefully this could be a production issue, or not. I kind of wonder if we're like polling for something now for some reason, and this is causing something to blow up. So, and maybe that's just something we've added just to our test environment. I'll have to dive into it. If you want to dive into it with me, I'm happy to do that. Or if you,
I actually have to run.
There you go. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate hopping on. I think
always
50% there.
Awesome.
I appreciate it, man. I'll catch you later, man.
See you.
Bye.